This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by Darren Barker here in Nottingham. Darren, good to see you. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you, mate. All good. Good to be back in Nottingham.
Obviously, it's good to catch up, and let's just start off with Smith Ouizza. Ouizza is not somebody who's going to be known on the UK scene. So, Darren, from your intel, from what you've looked into, what can you tell us about him? What are you expecting from this main event?
Do you know what? He's a decent fighter. He's game. He's on a good run of form. Beating a couple of good kids in the last three of his opponents, two unbeaten fighters. He's physically quite strong. He likes to impose himself on his opponents. A little unorthodox at times, likes to work the body, but he's game. He's really, really game. He comes to fight. And like I say, I think with that recent run of form and beating two unbeaten fighters in his last three fights, I think he'll take a lot of confidence away from that. Having said that, Dalton Smith is levels above. And I expect a very good performance. It may get a little tricky early on, but I think we've seen that with Dalton as the fight progresses. His boxing IQ, his boxing brain, almost allows him to find a way, and I expect him to get to him later on in the contest.
How dangerous are these fights, though? Simply because they're not going to be the ones which get the juices flowing for many. So for Dalton, he's within touching distance of trying to challenge for that world title. He so desperately craves. So it's very much so not taking his eye off the ball here.
Yeah, do you know what though? I think that the fact that the European title is on the line is a big plus, and it's a big reason to stay focused. I just see Dalton in the hotel in the lift, and he's thrilled and excited to win the European title. It's one that he's yet to achieve, and it's one that he wants to. You know, when you hear promoters and fighters talk about the domestic route, well, that's exactly what it is. You know, he's won English, British, Commonwealth, and now the European. He's kind of bar an area title that we laughed about in the lift. He's done the lot, and then you can push on to challenge him for world titles, all going well. So yeah, I think the fact that that Euro strap is on the line is another incentive to stay switched on.
Just last one on Dalton, Darren. What would you rather see Dalton continue his pursuit towards world honours, or the Azim fight next if Saturday went to plan?
Well, look, I would say the world title, because that is every fighter's dream. Well, it should be anyway. Having said that, look, whatever your desire is in this sport, then so be it. If you're chasing money and, you know, big fights that are away from the world title track, then if that's what makes you hungry, then so be it. But I look back at my own career and I think to myself, that was everything to me. And I get the impression it's the same for Dalton Smith becoming a world champion. So I kind of expect him to go for the world title. But having said that, if that fight does really and truly present itself, it's a tough one to ignore.
What's your thoughts on that fight? How much of a desire do you personally have to see Dalton and Adam fight?
Yeah, it's a brilliant fight. It really, really is. It's a you'd have to say a real pick and fight. I think Dalton's experience probably would have him a slight favourite going in the fight, but there's not much between them. It's a really, really good fight, and that's what we want to see. We want to see the best fight the best, and certainly the best from Britain fighting the best from Britain. So I hope, and I'm sure, we'll see that at some point.
Just some other topics I want to touch on. Obviously, Eubank Jr. Benn is now done for April. We're waiting on official announcements, but yeah, Chris Eubank Jr. It finally seems to be happening.
Yeah, I'm buzzing for it. You can say what you want. Everyone's going to tune in and watch it, and wherever it is, we're here in the stadium, it's going to be banged out, I'm sure. The needle's real, they don't like each other. I think you've just got to look at it stylistically, and you can see it. Don't take a genius to realise that it's going to catch fire pretty quickly. And yeah, it's been a long time coming. It started off as a fantasy fight, didn't it? But now it's a real thing.
Since he's come back in his last two fights, hasn't looked as explosive as previously. But then with Junior, we know that 160, it's not necessarily an easy weight for him to get down to. I know Connor's mentioned the rehydration clause along with Eddie and everything as well. What do you expect to see when they do share the ring?
Well, Eubank is going to obviously look a lot bigger. because he's naturally bigger. The weight suits Eubank. It's his natural weight. I know as you get older, it becomes a lot harder, and he has campaigned at super middleweight, but he has dropped down to middle, so it is his weight. And bar the Liam Smith knockout, he takes a hell of a shot. So it's a real interesting battle. We know how ferocious Conor Benn is. He'll look to outwork, out hustle, and just beat Eubank to the punch. But there's a lot of, like I say, natural size advantages for Eubank. It's a brilliant fight, really intriguing. I'm buzzing for it.
Conor seems to be a bit more emotionally involved when he talks about the fight as opposed to Junior. Junior tries to distance himself somewhat from going to in detail about it. How important will emotions play a part on Saturday night? On the time that the fight swings around in April, and Conor making sure that doesn't overtake what his game plan will be, how he wants to see the fight unfold.
Yeah, and that's where I can only talk firsthand of Tony Sims, but the important role that he will play in the build-up to the fight, even down to him entering the ring just before that first bell and calming him down to a degree, and getting him to stick to the game plan that they will surely have. But emotions are going to run high. There's so much on the line here. It's not just a massive fight for these two. There's a legacy surrounding this fight with the fathers and the history there. And you've got to be honest, neither would sleep easy at night knowing that they've lost to the other guy. It'd be a tough one. It'd be a hard pill to swallow. It really would. It would be a difficult one for both fighters to deal with. And for that reason, the nerves and the anticipation and the must-win nature of that fight makes it a blinder.
Just away from that, so obviously some other fights on the horizon. I get your thoughts on one fight which isn't on the horizon but's been mentioned by Turki Al-Sheikh is Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder. Darren, obviously with Tyson Fury's retirement, do you still hold an interest in Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder?
Yeah, I just think it will be a shootout. That you know for a fact that is not going past 4 rounds. Absolutely, there's no chance going past 4 rounds. And to be honest, I love the technical side of boxing. I really love the finer details of boxing, the hitting and not being hit. But I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't like an out-and-out war, an out-and-out shootout. And yes, this has happened if it does happen, far too late. And it should have happened a long time ago. Having said that, I'm all for it. Just think about it. Imagine the energy before that first bell, if those two were to fight. I'm all for it. But it all depends how much they both want to fight. And to be honest, I've no interest in the fight if Wilder is not going to engage. If he's going to move and stay out of trouble like he did against Parker, then I would change my mind ever so slightly. But if we are going to get a one last roll of the dice, Deontay Wilder, then sign me up.
Do you think we still see Fury Joshua despite Tyson's retirement announcement?
I would lean towards yes. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, my gut says we will, and I fully respect Tyson Fury's decision if it's cemented and it's a solid retirement, and he's left his mark in professional boxing. But you have to go back on past retirements. You'd have to say it's not legit. But my gut says we will see that fight.
Just on some fights which have been announced on the horizon. Chisora Wallin, Derek's last fight by all accounts in the UK from what he says. An awkward fight, not the fight which people talked about previously. Jarrell Miller was being mentioned. So will it be the swan song that Derek wants? Will it be that crowning night in Manchester, or will Otto's awkward southpaw style cause too many problems for it?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It is. I maybe ever so slightly lean towards Dell just because I think he's going to give absolutely everything, and he's so dangerous with those looping lefts and rights. But Wallin, I guess, compared to some other heavyweights out there, is probably not going to cause too much damage to Chisora like some other of the big names out there. He's more of a boxer as opposed to a fighter. So He's not got to worry about huge bombs raining in relentlessly throughout the fight. So it could be a smart bit of matchmaking, but if he gets into a groove and he's fairly nimble, Wallin, and he can frustrate Del, then you could look at it and say it's a bad bit of matchmaking. So yeah, look, the man has lit up many a nights in British boxing. So good luck to him.
Darren, as a man who was a world champion, a weight in between this fight I'm about to ask your thoughts on, Canelo-Crawford, if we see that later this year, is it just a bridge too far for Terence, or can he pull it off?
It's an intriguing fight. It's one of these fantasy fights that you never thought we'd see. Look, for me, I give him a hell of a chance, and the reason I say that is because moving up in weight, he will have the higher tempo, the busier style out of the two. It's down to then Canelo, who's been campaigning at super middleweight. Is the fight going to be at 168?
That's what's been reported. If it was to happen, it'd be around 168. I think I've also seen 164 mentioned. So, yeah.
He needs to. It's crazy me saying what Canelo needs to do, but if you fight someone like Crawford, who's going to be quicker than you and is going to look to be the busier out of the two, he's got to up his work rate. We've seen he's very economical, is Canelo, and what he does, he'll walk you down and he'll tire you out. But I think with someone like Canelo, who's very Crawford, who's very fleet-footed, nimble, and can move continuously for 12 rounds out of either stance, you've got to set a higher pace. You need to be in control of the tempo, and for that, it's very, very intriguing. You're talking about two of the best ever to lace up the gloves fighting. Yeah, I hope I get to go.
Did Eddie not give you a call for Pacheco Nelson either?
No. I'm required here in Nottingham. A city I love though.
Darren, also want to get your thoughts on next weekend, David Benavidez and David Morrell. Fantastic fight.
Yeah, I think Morrell's really got a point to prove. Didn't look good in LA, did he? But this is if you're ever gonna bring your A game to a fight, it's against Benavidez. It really is. It's a cracker. It's a fantastic fight. Two of the best upcoming fighters, I think you could say. Two fighters that could be making a case for them being one of the big stars, one of the big faces of boxing this year, next year, and for a few years to come. So an awful lot on the line, a big responsibility on both of their shoulders. But stylistically, I think this gels, and it won't take long for this to really catch fire and be a classic.
Beterbiev-Bivol, who's going to win the rematch?
I love this. I can't wait. Get me on that plane. I've just had my flights booked the other day, straight from Catrall, Barbosa in Manchester. Another one, don't miss that. It's a brilliant fight, really, really great fight. But that show is, I mean, we've spoken about it since it was announced. What a card. It really is a special, special card. I thought Bivol won the first fight, and I think he'll win this fight. Having said that, I believe when I look back at that fight, and I've watched it a couple of times since, still believe Bivol won in a close fight. I felt out of the two, Beterbiev could have done more. I think he could have started quicker and kept going and put more of a dent in Bivol, who we see in the last couple of rounds felt the pace, didn't he? Felt the presence of Beterbiev and started to fade a little, and Beterbiev finished the fight strong. So I think he can be busier. He can start a lot quicker. Having said that, again, he's just turned 40. You know, he's no spring chicken, and this starts to take its toll on you. The training camps, the fights, the pressure, the build-ups, it all really does. The shots that you've taken in sparring and on fight night, your resistance starts to fade ever so slightly, and it becomes very, very difficult. At some point, that's going to happen to Beterbiev. We're starting to see it already. Is the decline started to happen? It's a great fight, but a fight where I believe it's going to be another really, really close one, but I favour Bivol.
And last one from me, Darren. It's on an undercard, unbelievably, Dubois-Parker. Who's going to come out on top in that heavyweight clash for IBF heavyweight title?
I think you have to go with Dubois right now. His form is incredible, as is Joseph Parker's, to be fair. Two of the form heavyweights out there, bar Usyk, I think Ajit Kabir as well, the three form heavyweights. I think if anyone can upset Dubois, it could be Parker, who's got the quicker hands out of the two. Perhaps not the quickest feet in comparison to Dubois. I think Dubois got very, very good feet, slides in and out of range really, really well. But the hand speed certainly lies with Parker. He's got a good chin. He was dropped by Zhilei, but I don't think a good chin is not getting dropped. I think it's being able to get back up when we see him recover and win the fight. It was a close fight. But the momentum, the ferocity, the power in both hands, the physical presence and the self-belief now that Dubois has, I think you'd have to lean towards him. But Parker is in a great place. I spoke to him the other day. His team is on point. And he really believes in himself. He believes now at 33 he's in his prime. And with the experience that he's got, I'll be far from shocked if Parker was to win. I'm telling you, I'll be far from shocked. And I'll tell you what, he really is one of the good guys of boxing. What a man, what a man. He's a proper family man. He's a great role model for young fighters out there. And yeah, chief support. How is that? It's nuts.
It's a crazy card, Darren. But listen, I appreciate your time. I'll leave you to go do some work now. Thank you.
Thank you, mate.